Count me in. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 2 of the oNiD British GT3 Championship. We're here at Oulton Park, and qualifying has just got underway. My name's Cammy Sturch, and I'm joined in the commentary booth this week by Dan Hyde.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Sorry, I don't have the Twitch stream up, and I didn't spot when our intro had ended, so I'm watching our internal feed, I didn't get a 5-second countdown, so I wasn't actually sure, and I didn't want to start speaking too early. But as you can see, the aerial shot of Oulton Park, one of the more narrow circuits in Assetto Corsa Competizione, which makes for some challenging overtaking and no opportunities really to go free wide. Always we will see cars going off into the grass, especially down there at the hairpin. We'll always see them sort of try not to go into the barrier. It's a 1-hour race tonight. Last week we had 2 30-minute races at Brands Hatch in the dark, where Jonathan Seville took the victory in his Porsche 991 to GT3R, and Christopher Larson in the Honda NSX finished runner-up in second place, with Sigurd Revzik, who rounded off the podium in his BMW M4 GT3. The championship standings after one round, as you can imagine, is Seville on top, Larson, and then Revzik. Fourth was Miles Dixon, with Marquez in fifth, Hearn in sixth, Hagel in seventh, Dan Watts in eighth, Matt High in ninth, and Jordan Watson rounding out the top 10 in his Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. So, Dan, when will we be able to catch up with our qualifiers?
In about 10 seconds.
Fantastic stuff. All the drivers have got out, and they have all set lap times. It is a long 45-minute session, so there's no risk of missing it. There's going to be lots of opportunities for the drivers to get out there and set a time. Oulton Park being a smaller circuit, a smaller British Grade 2 circuit, Grade 2 meaning it can't host Formula 1, means the track's going to get pretty busy, so drivers will be looking for opportunities to find a bit of space out there on the circuit, and no doubt they will have plenty of laps invalidated and just sort of spoil as they approach slower cars. As we join Dan Watts, who finished last week in 8th place in his BMW. He's currently sitting pretty in 3rd place at the moment. Dan, do we have any information on whether he is improving at all? He's 0.8 off the pace.
His current lap is invalidated.
That makes sense. That makes sense why you cut away and cut over to Chris Larson in his oNiD Racing NSX, currently top of the pack with a 132.152. Dan, you've raced at Oulton Park in GT3s. Can you remember what your lap times were?
Slow with a capital S?
Much quicker, because you took the touring car race track and just cut that and just, you joined the racetrack here.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I know you do love your touring cars. And when did the touring cars get started again? The British touring cars this season, Dan?
Oh, it's April or May, if I can remember correctly. Somewhere around there.
I think I've been spoiled by F1 starting earlier and earlier in the year. They, of course, reveal their liveries. Haas reveal their livery in a couple of days, and then everybody else reveals theirs sort of around Valentine's Day. So Chris Larson, car number 2. Very humble of him not to take car number 1, but goes across the line. He does not improve. He was a few seconds down, so I imagine he was held up on that lap, but he's got quite a bit of space as an Aston Martin's pulled off the track there. And the class system generally working out. Got all the pros on top, and then Silver's mixing in with some of the pros. And then apart from John Cheel up in 14th, the AM class are at the bottom end of proceedings. Are we expecting the Porsche to do well again here, Dan? The Porsche did very well at Brands Hatch.
I think the Porsche does suit tracks like this with a lot of technical corners.
Yeah, and I think that is the majority of British circuits, isn't it? Apart
It
from
is.
Silverstone, yeah, like smaller, twistier, more narrow tracks as well, because the Porsche does have a top speed deficit. So if there's less space for cars to overtake, and then they can make that Porsche feel that little bit wider. As Dan Watts, zero. 0.6 off his best, he goes round for another go, and he's gone very wide there, and he might have invalidated that immediately, has he?
I'm just having a look.
I imagine not, since we're keeping with him. Driver pulls off and returns to garage there. But it is a Honda leading the way, 2 Porsches, and then 3 BMWs, 1 Rogue Audi, and then 4 more Porsches. So Dan Watts rounds the hairpin, the Shell Oils corner, turn 5, heading up towards Falstons. Such a tricky chicane, so easy to get wrong, and of course some of these cars will handle those curbs and bumps much more handily than the others. As yeah, the AMG, I think it might have been Marquez trying to leap out of the way there, and they might have impeded John L a little bit. So he did the best he could, but no doubt that would have added a bit of time to John L's time. He's currently sitting 9th, and he's been quite handy as well. We've seen plenty of him in other oNiD series. He's one to look for in the opening laps. Like if you usually at the start, he will make a lunge into the first corner, and so far it's always come off well as he jumps from 10th up into 4th onto the second row on the grid as we're running a command prompt now. Dan's been hacked. Oh no. There's hacker business going on. Oh, and John L runs very wide there as he's got the Racing Stronger Aston Martin ahead of him, who's on a slow lap. That might have been, I think that was Petr Jelinek. So he's going to be getting it. There's a lot of cars not on fast laps at the moment. So Jonathan L's going to have to sort of do a bit of a Senna and try and thread his way through without losing time. He's been pushed down to 5th now. Miles Dixon in 4th place. Jonathan Seville is up in 2nd place. 8 thousandths behind Larson. Earl is flashing his lights as that was the Remnant Racing team. I think that's Henry Handy getting out of his way. So most drivers doing a commendable job getting out of faster drivers' way. Say they do unto others as they want done unto them, to get religious on you a little bit. And I was wondering how that Sunoco sign went flying there because I couldn't actually see, but I think that was that Miles Dixon? It looked like a Pole Sim Sport Porsche, so I'm going to assume that was Miles Dixon. Don't think this is going to be a great lap for Jonathan L, but again, there's nothing you can really do for the amount of traffic that's out there. Dan, do you have a tactic when it comes to trying to find some space in qualifying?
It's all about looking at your relatives, and before you go out, try and look at the track map, see if you can put yourself in a gap.
So your aunts, your uncles, your cousins.
Precisely.
Your relatives. There was a moment where you had to think there, wasn't there?
Just a small one.
Yeah. If you have to, you're like, why? Cammy's talking crap. So, there were a couple drivers who missed round 1, and I'm just checking to see if I can't see Will Dendy. Is he missing round 2 as well?
I was reliably informed he should be racing tonight.
He should be. I mean, what were you and him doing last week, Dan?
Should I say on stream?
I don't think is. I don't. Is it that sordid?
No. We were at Simply Race for the wonderful event that Will organises, SR Classics.
More wonderful than this, apparently. Didn't.
Well, I get to race in that one.
That's true. You get to it. How did you do?
I did all right. I think I got a 3rd and a 5th or 6th.
Oh, well done.
And Chris McCarthy mentions it on commentary at one point in the virtual Le Mans 24 hour. He was talking about how we go down to Simply Race and crash into each other a lot.
Fantastic. And of course, at Le Mans Virtual, Will Dendy gave us both a shout out, didn't he?
He did.
Will Dendy racing in this series and races for Brabham Esports, who were of course competing in Le Mans Virtual in the I think the LMP class. They finished 8th in class. They didn't seem to run into the connection issues that some other drivers did, be it server issues or their own home connections. And yeah, they made it to 8th place, beat out Fordzilla and beat out Team Redline, well, one of the Redline cars anyway, by default. And then Will very unexpectedly sort of gave a shout out for Caden Computers and Go for the Gap, which was a lovely surprise. Totally, neither of us had asked him to do that. I hadn't. Had you, Dan?
I had neither.
No, Will Dendy, constantly always thinking of others. Very lovely guy. I hope he does join us. I mean, he's got plenty of time. You can afford to miss a bit of qualifying, but you're only giving yourself less time to find an open gap on track. As Martin thought, oh, speak of the devil, here is Dendy, and he has got a lap on the board, but it's uncharacteristically off the pace for him. He is the slowest pro driver out there, but I'm assuming that's just a banker lap, just his first out lap where the tyres maybe aren't quite up to pressure or he's been held up a little bit. So no doubt he's setting green sectors at the moment, Dan.
He's up on his current lap. He's probably just finding traffic like most other drivers.
And so he is a big fan of McLarens. He does drive McLarens in real life, and there's a sort of a driver of McLaren customer racing. So as he comes out the last corner over Deer Leap, he jumps up to 30th. So he found 6/10 of a second, but still that puts him at the arse end of proceedings for the pro class. And knowing Will's high standards, that will not be enough for him as he goes very wide at the Cascades. He can still find time in this lap because going wide at Cascades will cost him a couple tenths, but he is 2.5 seconds off the pace, and he absolutely does have the skill and ability to mix it with the best. So that is why he was chosen for the Le Mans Virtual lineup for Brabham Esport. He is a phenomenally quick driver, but it is fun when you can get the best of him at Simply Race, can't you, Dan? It is fun when you do.
You can, and it's the funnest part for me is when I beat him on pace. Doesn't happen often, very rarely, I would say, but when it happens, it is good fun.
I had to tease and taunt him. It was the Clio Cup at Laguna Seca, and I was catching him lap after lap, and I think it might have been for the lead in class, and I just kept saying, I'm coming to get ya, I'm coming to get ya, and I couldn't believe it because I was doing it on pace, and I just... front-wheel drive cars are a tricky mistress, aren't they? Once they click for you, it all comes together, but they're very different beasts to rear-wheel drive, aren't they, Dan?
They are. Some of the things you do in a front-wheel drive car, it will be the complete opposite of what you do in other cars.
Yeah, it's a lot of lift-off oversteer.
Yeah, so yeah, you have the car set up to lift off oversteer. That way you don't wear out your front tyres too quickly.
And the majority of British touring cars are front-wheel drive as well, aren't they?
They are, apart from the BMW, because I don't think the Infinity's coming back this year.
Oh, really? That is a shame. Of course, there was a front-wheel drive Le Mans car. Do you remember what that was, Dan?
Some weird Datsun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably will be more than one, but I was thinking of that sort of the Nissan concept. The front-wheel drive. It had a very long bonnet, didn't it? Here's Ben Brown, by the way. He's 31st at the moment. We know he is capable of more. He doesn't improve. He goes for another lap. Aggressive on the apex. This should be a quick one if the rest of the lap is anything like that. Down towards Denton's and the Cascades now. Nicely on the apex there. Not taking Will Dendy's line. He's 31st. He's going to be lining up alongside Will Denty at the moment, unless he improves. He's got a bit of space as long as these cars... Oh no, and he's got out wide, and that is the end of that lap, and that's exactly in the... Oh, and he's taken out one of the... I think that was one of the Remnant Racing cars, was it? I'm not sure. That was such a close-up shot. He's taking out somebody else as well, but here's Ollie Knowles. He's 32nd at the moment. Must have been held up on that lap. He was more than a second and a half off the pace. But here he goes on another flyer. Let's see what he can do. So I should check my notes and see if we can gather up any interesting information. So do you know what Ollie Knowles does, Dan?
Not a clue.
He is a watch trader.
I was trying to think of a pun, but I can't think of any. I suppose he's got the time for it. Hey!
That's a job I can see myself doing. Watch. You're watching it. I don't know. But yeah, he's from Berkshire. And his accomplishments is he's the only GT3 World Tour Sunday champion in Split 2.
Ooh.
So all this information was voluntarily provided by the drivers. We haven't fact verified any of it. So whether he is a watch trader or not, or he just thought that sounded interesting, you know, we have no way to verify it. But it makes for some interesting tidbits during the commentary, we thought. He's currently 33rd. We're going to jump ahead now to Alex Shahabi for Connexus Motorsports. He's currently sitting in 5th place. Is he improving at the moment, Dan?
He's on an invalidated lap. But lots of people are on invalid laps or not improving at the moment.
Well, the track conditions are still optimum, and the air temperature is only 22 degrees, so it should still be quick out there for our paint sprayer from Bristol. Here's Daniel Lindblom. Fry Guy's been doing rather well recently. He's sitting in 13th place, very high up for a silver driver. He's 2nd in class at the moment. It's Henry Handy leading the way in silver class. He's managed to get it into the top 10, so kudos to Henry there. And Daniel's just coming up to traffic. I don't know what to call them because they're not invalidated lap drivers. They're just not on out laps, but that's a bit of a mouthful to say. He rounds the last corner, heading over Deer Leap. Is he going to improve on 13th and take silver pole? No, he doesn't, but he gets closer to it. That will be a great benefit to him to get closer to Henry Handy, and that might prompt Handy to come back out the pits. Likely he's just tweaking setups. But there's plenty of time for it. 45-minute qualifying session. Plenty of time for these drivers to head back to the pits and make tweaks. Dave Selecki running in 2nd place in AM class at the moment. He's in 24th place, and the 911 does seem, or the 991 does seem well suited to Oulton Park. So he's got that advantage in hand as the Porsche's benefited from a recent BOP update. And he's going to get the slipstream from Ollie Knowles, I think. Out Deer Leap, he's got the slipstream. That will help him no end. And he jumps up to 18th place. So I think that is... Yeah, that is the lead in AM class. By a mile. Here's Chris Martin. He's just ahead of Will Dendy, but he'll want to put less silver and AM cars between him. He does. He goes 25th and gets closer to Mav Gardner's time in 21st place. So, oh, and he gets a bit squirrely there out of turn 1. So he's just going to RTG. So, yeah, Will is struggling down there a bit. I mean, no doubt he's not put the practice in because he has been... I've been working with Will to do his sponsorship deck, and he has been abroad. Do you know where he's been, Dan?
Was it Gibraltar?
It was Gibraltar. Let me guess, you were with him.
Never been.
No, I'd never have as well. I mean, it's not a big place, is it? I mean, it's so small that they have to close a road every time a plane lands, don't they?
Yes, and it's the road that links the island to the mainland.
They just squeezed an airport in anywhere they could, and there's like a level crossing as if it was a train crossing. Alex Parkin at the moment, he is in 33rd place. is Oulton Park going to suit an AMG with a big engine in the front, which can be a bit understeery?
It can be a bit oversteery too.
Really? Do you find the... Oh, yeah. I'm sure I saw a little slide there. But he's caught traffic and they've not jumped out of his... Oh, and they've still not let him go. Oh, so yeah, he's just slowed down. He's probably none too happy about that. He's approached a car that is not on a fast lap and they have not efficiently got out of his way. So that's a spoiled lap for him. 28th place. It's Heike van der Veen racing stronger. He's currently in 28th place. How are his laps look? Ooh, wide of the curb there. How are his times looking, Dan?
Timey-wimey?
Yes, timey-wimey.
Yeah, he's currently down on his best lap by 0.3.
So Heike didn't give us any information, so all I can say is he is Dutch and he is 30 years old. If you have a fun fact about Hilke van der Veen, why not tell us in the comments?
Miles Dixon has just done a purple sector.
Not surprised from Miles Dixon. He is a very fast individual who I don't think he's seen enough success. I think he could win more. I always see him up there, but I've not often seen him leading, and it's usually because just some bad luck's come his way. So, and he's got that all wrong. Just as I talk about luck, he's got it all wrong through Falstons. So we're going to go back to Sigurd Revzik, third in the championship, fourth in qualifying at the moment. He's been pipped by Jonathan Earl, who's got himself up to third place. So that is much more like it from Jonathan Earl. I would expect to see Will Dendy up there, but still nothing from Will Dendy. Sigurd Revzik coming across the line now. He stays on the second row, not surprising with a time like 1:58, but obviously he slowed down to give himself some space.
I do like his gap to pole.
Nice. Trying to work out who that is ahead of him in the Honda NSX, and it's a Remnant Racing. It's not Henry Handy. Is it Henry Handy? It is Henry Handy. I'm more used to Henry Handy being in the AMG because that was what he was driving the last time I was commentating. Well, not last week, but the last series he was in. So it's nice to see drivers. They do mix things up a bit. I'm a driver who'll find a car and stick to it. What about you, Dan? Do you tend to swap cars a lot, or you just stick to what you know?
I will switch cars when I feel like I can go quicker in another car.
I'll switch cars when someone's told me the bop has advantaged that car. Then I'll get in it.
I mean, I will pick a car and I'll stick to it until I feel I'm slow, and then I'll go and try a few more cars and pick another one that I like.
See, I liked the Aston before it was cool, and then it got a bop update just after I jumped into an Audi.
Ooh.
I loved the Aston, and then I got convinced by Brendan Rooney in the Challenger Cup. You know, try the Audi, and I did go faster in the Audi, and then the Aston got a bop update, and everyone was going, "Oh, that's the cars I have now." But now the cars I have is the Porsches, but they're being outshone still by Chris Larson in his Honda. As Sigurd goes very wide, and we've got an oNiD racing car off the track then. That doesn't look like they pulled over. That looks like they got a big heap of oversteer out of turn one and binned it into the barrier. And it looked like an oNiD racing, I want to say BMW, but I cannot be sure. But look how busy it is down there. Real gaggle of cars out the hairpin. I think Henry Handy will hold him up too much, and a nice soft fade there to Chris Larson as we've got cars. Yeah, Chris Larson really being held up now. And what they need to do is sort of at the last corner, and he's flashing his lights here. He's not impressed with some of these cars not getting out the way. Although the Ferrari up ahead, the Pulse SimSport, would be Jordan Watson. He's on a fast lap, so does not need to. And he's kind of... What is going on there? Because he's got the McLaren behind him trying to overtake. Is that Zach Finney? Who's trying to overtake, and he's chasing, even though they're on... What is Zach Finney doing? He's right up the back of Chris Larson.
I think they're all on outlap, so they're all just fighting for position.
I think, yeah, neither of them want to back off. And, yeah, Chris was slightly impeded. Wouldn't surprise me if Chris was worried about the McLaren making a lunge up the inside, which is, that is against the rules here. So Chris does still lead the way with a 1:32.1. 12 minutes to go in this session, and the weather looks like it'll be staying dry here at Oulton Park. Oh, and Zach Finney. Oh, and that is the goodbye to the front of that McLaren as he loses it at Island Bend, and that catches so many drivers out, doesn't it, Dan?
It does.
Thank you for that input. It does. Has it ever caught you out?
Multiple times. I've managed to thread the eye of the needle, though.
If you can do that, yeah, you can get away with just, you're a bit embarrassed, but you get away with it. You've not wrecked the car. I don't think I've ever gone off at Island Bend. Not in a race, anyway. Or in qualifying, I don't think I've ever gone off. I might have gone off in a practice session or a single player session where you don't, you're not really fussed so much, but I don't think I've had that privilege. Of course, once in a GT3 event with oNiD, it did start raining, and we had drivers sliding off the track at Island Bend, and that was something to behold. That did separate the men from the boys, as it were. The sim racers from the gamers, as Miles Dixon is in 6th place at the moment. His last lap, just under a second off the pace, so he might have just been held up a little bit. He might have made a slight mistake, but so that 911 looking darty and bouncing around, a very stiff setup. Same for Will Dendy, very stiff setup maybe on that car. I think that car has a K-Dan computer and go for the gap on it, Dan. I know it has the go for the gap G on the nose.
I've not had a proper look at the livery, so
Can you get us a front view?
I'll see what I can do.
Oh, we've got a car off the track there. It's better that cars go off the track if they want to return to garage. It certainly prevents anybody else being impeded. And when you see the cloud of dust, it's a sort of nice signal that, yep, they're out the way. They're not going to do anything. So we've got Silverstone Composites, one of the title sponsors for Will Dendy. He works very closely with them. And they're based, as you can imagine, up at Silverstone. And they deal with, I imagine, composite materials, so glad I did my research there.
Top quality research, that.
Yeah, Facebook mum level research, that is. So, even though he does drive for Brabham Esports, he's labelled as Zancho Simsport at the moment, and it's there is a bit of a overlap between some of those teams. He does jump up to 26th place. He outqualifies Chris Martin, but still very uncharacteristically slow for Will Dendy. He's 2 seconds off Chris Larson's time. Martin Thorpe here in the Aston Martin. He's only 1.6 off, but do you think it hurts a pro's ego to see that they're slower than one of the AM drivers?
I don't think so.
That will hurt his ego
when they're in different cars. 'Cause obviously, some cars can be a lot quicker at some circuits than others.
That's true. He was going to rejoin the track there, but he thought better of it and has returned to garage. Miles Dixon has been pushed down to 6th place. He's got Alex Shahabi ahead of him, attacking those curves very aggressively through his slops and Knickerbrook. Have you ever been to Oulton Park, Dan?
It's one of the few circuits that I haven't been to.
We'll make a date of it one day. I've never been either.
Yeah, it does look like
maybe when Will's there one day we'll go.
Yeah, it does look like a good track to go and watch at.
Whereabouts is it in the UK, Dan? Every track's far away from me, really. Apart from Brands.
It's somewhere, I can tell you that.
It's in England. So Marcus Hagel, 4/10 off his best.
if I remember correctly, it's up Liverpool way.
Yeah.
I want to say
What, Oulton Park?
like
That wasn't a Liverpool in actually. I don't know
Chester
what that was.
kind of thing.
I've just googled it. Yeah, you're right. It's yeah, you're spot on, really. Yeah. What's that? Maybe a few miles west. Sorry, a few miles east of Chester.
Yes.
Well done, Dan. You get a point for that.
I mean, I have actually driven past it, so I should remember that.
I never have. I've gotten trains to Manchester and I've flown into Manchester. That was a domestic flight. Like one of the shortest flights of my life. But then, yeah, that was sort of going to North Wales. Anyway, here's Javier Marquez. He's in 8th position at the moment, the highest running AMG. But Pulse Sim Sport, he's just over a second off Chris Larson's best. So you can really see there the two aliens at the top, Chris Larson and Jonathan Seville, and then there's a 3 tenths gap. As Chris Larson has improved actually. He was 800th faster than Seville. Now he's say over a tenth faster. Chris Larson in the pits. It's a shame we can't see any of the crews. We just see a car morphing through another car there. As Marquez comes across the line, no improvement from him. I think that's about 3/4 of a second off his best. And here's Mav Gardner. So let's have a little information from Mav, because we have 2 Gardners racing with us. So I have to specifically say Mav, because I don't want to mix him up with Adam Gardner, who is also in a V8 Vantage. But Mav Gardner is from Scotland. He works in logistics. No accomplishments. And I wonder if some drivers took that like as in racing accomplishments, but I kind of meant it like any accomplishments, you know? So something that you're proud of doing. Dan, what would you put in your accomplishments if I asked for this sort of thing?
I once kicked Mr. Blobby.
That was so unexpected. You're not one of the people bidding on his suit, are you?
Not that crazy. I couldn't afford that.
I was outbid very quickly, I'll have you know.
On all 4 of them.
Is there 4 of them listed?
I think there's 4 now. There was 1, then it went 2. I think there's lots more
2.
now.
Oh, John Gill will be well pleased when he's watching this back to find out they're not even talking about me. They're talking about Mr. Blobby.
Blobby,
I
Blobby,
just keep
Blobby.
talking about Mr. Blobby. I don't know. That's just the way his commentary goes sometimes. I really didn't expect that though.
We can link it back to cars though.
Yeah, any racing accomplishments?
Oh, I won an I'm trying to think of the right word now. Evaluation race, and I beat both Sharons. And that means something.
Yotam and Yuval Sharon.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, they are a couple of alien level drivers. So to beat them is, I think that's like for people who don't know Dan Hyde on a racetrack. You know when Maldonado won at Barcelona?
Just like that.
That's Dan. Caused a few accidents in his time, usually in the mid pack, and then suddenly, what? Dan's leading. Dan's winning.
Yeah, on my day.
And then as quickly as it came, it went, and you're still up there. You still do well, and you certainly haven't sort of faded into obscurity like Maldonado did.
Well, I did forget I won an Alpine Cup race at Oulton Park.
You did indeed. I remember trying the Alpines at Fruxton, wasn't it? And that was horrific.
Yeah.
Here's Mr. Wendy Dendy. He is in 27th at the moment. He's this is going to be it now. He's only going to get a couple more laps. There's only 3 minutes left on the board. What can number 9, Will Wendy Sendy Dendy, do? He powers out of the Shell Oils corner through turn 6 into the Folkestone chicane. He's catching a couple drivers on fast laps, so he's going to have to hope that he doesn't catch them or they don't trip each other up and get in his way. As he heads down towards Hislops through turns 10 and 11, up towards Knickerbrook. Tricky corner where I have lost the back end so many times clipping that curb on the right. Up the hill now, Clay Hill, through Water Tower, up towards the 90-degree right-hander, turn 15, Druids. And he's quite wide of the apex there, but it is a bit of a double apex corner, that, isn't it? So it can be beneficial to take a wider, more rounded line. 2 minutes left on the board now. Coming up to turn 16, Lodge corner. The last corner but one. He takes a very deep line to cut back, get a straighter exit through Deer Leap. Is he going to improve from 27th? I imagine he... No, he's not. I mean, he's a couple seconds off the... About a second and a half off the pace there.
I think he took that wider line to get more speed down the straight for the next lap.
I think you're right there, Dan. He's going to get a couple more laps in. I think he should be able to finish this lap and just about start another. Here's old Dog Juice. He is sitting pretty in the pit lane, but not sitting pretty on the grid. He is 43rd, and is that last, Dan?
It is, and I don't think he's sitting that comfortably because it looks like there's another car inside it.
So, Dog Juice Jackson with another person inside him.
Yeah, Oulton Park doesn't have enough garages for the amount of cars you can actually run at Oulton Park in the game.
No. Here's Marcel Sima running in 39th at the moment. 50 seconds left on the board. He is 39th. Here's Ralph Vest, 37th at the moment, not having such a good time. About 3 seconds off the provisional pole time. Matt Wilmot, our sole controller player, he is currently 38th, but it is a tall order for joypad players. We return to car number 9, coming out of Lodge Corner over Deer Leap. Will's going to get one more chance at this. He's going to be one of the last cars to go across the line. He improves to 25th. And that's it. That's Will Dendy's qualifying over. So the best he can hope for is 25th. Dan Watts coming out of Deer Leap. Here's Jordan Watson. He's coming round Folkestone's uphill top towards Hislops. We've got Andrew Hearn. Dan likes his NASCAR liveries. He's coming through Lodge. Over Deer Leap. Is Andrew going to improve? He's 29th at the moment. And he jumps up to 22nd. So quite tidy effort there. That will make a sizable difference to his race result. As Miles Dixon, has he been held up by his teammate there, who was just pulling over? We return you to Jordan Watson. He's currently 13th and he goes 10th fastest. Will anybody be able to push him out of the top 10? Miles Dixon can't. He's already ahead. He's 7th at the moment. 7/10 of a second off provisional pole. Marcel Sima, 39th at the moment. 3.1 seconds off provisional pole. Out of Lodge, over Deer Leap. What's it going to be for Sima? Sima stays 39th. Here's Miles Dixon, currently in 7th. Is he going to improve? Unfortunately not. He is going to be starting the race from 7th, and that is... Oh, as we see Henry Handy go by. That is your qualifying for this evening. Chris Larson takes pole position with a 132.1. Alongside him is Jonathan Seville. Jonathan Earl in 3rd, and Sigurd Revzik is 4th. Alex Shahabi starts in 5th, with Dan Watts in 6th, Miles Dixon in 7th, and Hearn in 8th. Marcus Hagel in the Audi starts 9th, with Jordan Watson in 10th. Marquez is 11th, and Henry Handy is 12th. Daniel Lindblom starts 13th, with High in 14th. Van Veergen is 15th, with Gardner 16th. Passionek starts 17th alongside Matt Gardner in 18th place. Dave Zalecki is 19th, the pole position of the AM class, and Martin Thorpe is 20th. Andrew Hearn starts 22nd with Zach Finney in 23rd, John Gill in 24th place, and Timo Gurdon in 25th. Will Dendy starts down in 26th place as Van Oostenen starts alongside in 27th, Ollie Knowles in 28th, and Chris Martin in 29th, the tail end of the pro class. Oulton is 30th. Apologies for the pronunciations. I forgot how to pronounce it. Will did tell me. And Hilke van der Veen is 31st. Ralph Vest starts 32nd with Lathoff in 33rd. Alex Parkin is 34th with Ben Brown in 35th. Ryan Davies is 36th. Rhodes 37th. Wilmot 38th. Marcel Seamer 39th. Timo Lewin in 40th. Dawson is 41st. Hurst 42nd. And Dog Juice Jackson is 43rd. And that is your grid for this evening. So the drivers will just be making last-minute adjustments to their race setup, making sure that they've got enough fuel to see them to the end. It is not a 30-minute race followed by a 30-minute race tonight. It is one 60-minute race. Now we're just going to get the information. So there is no refueling and there is a mandatory tyre change. So the pit window will open, I think SimRacing.GP gives us the pit window in the amount of seconds rather than minutes that the pit window will be open. Steve Worrell, if you're listening, can we have the pit window length in minutes rather than seconds, please? Thank you very much.
Just divide it by 60. Do some quick maths.
I think the pit window opens 10 minutes into the race and closes 10 minutes from the end. So I think it's open for 40 minutes. If I have to do quick maths, I'll have to stop talking. I can't do two things at once, really. As you see the cars coming off the hydraulic jacks now, that's a little jump they do.
You should be able to multitask.
Yeah, I should be able to, but not when I've got people listening to me and I have to keep on talking and it's a stream of information. It just comes from brain to mouth without a filter. Hence, I get things wrong. As Chris Larson leads them away for a full warm-up lap of Oulton Park. I've been talking quite a bit. Dan, is there anything you'd like to add to proceedings? Any predictions? Any thoughts? Anybody who stood out for you so far in qualifying and anybody who's letting themselves down?
I'm going to go for a Larson win. That's what my money's...
Larson win?
Yeah.
Has any driver stood out as having a sort of exceedingly good qualifying session? A Mr. Kipling qualifying session?
Dave Zalecki, up in 19th.
Yeah, I can't lie, actually. That is a strong performance there. And any drivers that are further down than you would expect?
Yeah, Martin and Dendy should be a little bit higher.
I think Ben Brown should be a bit higher as well.
Yeah, Ben should be a bit higher. Although it looks like we just had a disconnection.
Oh, yeah, we're down to 42 drivers rather than 43. I mean, when we work out who that is, we'll let everybody know. They've got some time to return. If it was a game crash or an internet connection issue, they have got time to return, but they will be forced to start from the pit lane. So they'll have to wait for all the cars to go past and then trundle down the pit lane before they get out. So they'll usually get out on the track and be about 3 corners behind the last running car. As Graham Jackson's just coming up to Island Bend, and the front half of the pack are just going round. Just going round the Fulston chicane. As we catch back up with the leading pack, there's Chris Larson doing a bit of tyre warming, a bit of weaving. Do you find that helps much in GT cars, Dan?
Yeah, it helps more with the surface temperature. If you want to get the core temperature of the tyre up, ACC, you tend to do a lot of brake dragging.
That's what I've tended to do on a warm-up lap, especially near the end of the warm-up lap, because, you know, if you're doing it at the beginning, that temperature will just be lost later in the lap anyway. And always, given rolling starts, it's always tricky for us as commentators, because we don't know when we can't just say, and it's go, 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 because we're not quite sure when the green light will come on. So we have to we're sort of left in limbo for a moment where it's okay, it can happen any moment now. But for drivers as well, all the while they're sort of being told to keep to 70 kilometers per hour, they're losing heat out of their tires. And they can't brake drag or weave as they're coming over Deer Leap, really, because they could the lights could go green whilst they're weaving, and they'll cause a collision, because ghosting will disable as soon as the green light comes on. So the drivers make their way through Deer Leap now, coming past the pit lane entrance, and the lights red. They will go green any second now. The lights are green, they're away, and looks like Jonathan Seville may have got the jump. Can he get round the outside of Chris Larson? Chris Larson's going to make it hard for him. They make a little bit of contact. Seville's out onto the grass. He's going to be taken now by Jonathan L, but Christopher Larson leads the pack down into Cascades. We've got a car off there. Got a car shooting off at Cascades. Just saw it at the background of the picture. Looks like they've avoided the barrier and rejoined. Chris Martin's got a drive-through penalty, but it is Chris Larson who leads the field down into the hairpin. Jonathan Earl has got from 4th to 2nd place. Fantastic from Jonathan Earl. You can always rely on him for some first corner action, but I think he just took advantage of it going wrong for Seville and Shahabi. As the train follow through Falston chicane, through Hilltop, up towards Hislop's Bend now. And Martin Thorpe just trying to get past Jelinek. The two Aston Martins now side by side. Jelinek compromised his exit, getting on the grass a little bit, and that's just enabled Martin Thorpe just to get the run and take him before they get to Hislop's. So that is Mav Gardner ahead of them in another Aston Martin in the sort of Mazda 787B inspired livery, and there's his teammate Henry Handy in the NSX, who is running top of the class in silver and 12th place overall as they come up to Lodge Corner now. Matt High in, I imagine that's not a jet black Aston Martin. I imagine a livery is not loaded in there properly, but Henry Handy's going to get alongside him now, and they're going to be getting the slipstream from Marquez. We don't want to see him going 3 wide. It's ill-advised at Oulton Park, but Matt High's going to put a nose in. Oh, and it's very close there. Henry Handy making contact, just giving a little push, but it's good to see that most, we haven't had any pit manoeuvres, we haven't had any spins. Dan, it looks like every car's gotten away reasonably cleanly, and there's not been any calamities.
Yeah, I think there was just that one car off at, turn 3
Shades.
on the first lap.
Yeah, it looks like they gathered that up. They lost some places inevitably, as we've got a Pirelli board on the track there. And how many laps do you think it will be until all these brake marker points are gone?
Probably this lap or the next lap.
Yeah. And do you rely on those, or do you quickly find other reference points knowing that they'll be knocked down quickly?
Yeah, I always have a backup, just in case.
Always have a backup. Yep. And you can tell Dan works with computers. Always have a backup. As Marcel Seema at the moment holds the fastest lap of the race. It's great to see. And Marcel Seema up into 25th. Ben Brown is 26th. Will Dendy is still down in 27th. Not able to make an impression yet, but probably just a case of trying to survive the first few laps. They can be a bit manic when you're down in the doldrums, can't they? You're surrounded by cars, and some of whom the drivers will be slower than you, and you're just trying not to go into the back of them.
Yeah, and you also try not to lose time at the same time, and
not be rear-ended yourself.
Yeah, Oulton Park's a difficult place to overtake.
It is, but we've had a bit of an off there. That was I think and Jelinek, a bit of contact with Daniel Lindblom. Now, I don't think Daniel Lindblom could be blamed there. He was driving pretty straight and true. I think that was Peter Jelinek had an off, was sort of rejoining half under control, and just bumped into the side of Lindblom. So it's not going well for Jelinek in these opening laps at Oulton Park. Jonathan Seville chasing the back of Jonathan Earl in the 2 Porsches, but it is Chris Larson who is starting to eke a gap from these two. He's just under 2 seconds up the road, and Jonathan Seville might be being held up a little bit by Jonathan Earl, but so you cannot take that start away from Jonathan Earl. It was a great start. He took advantage of some of the drama ahead of him and jumped up to second place. Can he hold it, though? He needs to not overdrive himself and just be able to handle the pressure for another 55 minutes. If it was a 24-hour race, I'd be saying, you're nearly home and dry, but we're only 5 minutes in, so you've got a long time to go, John. Dave Zalecki is leading the AM class at the moment in 19th place. Henry Handy leading the silver class in 12th place still, as we're on with Jordan Watson, who every time I've commentated on Jordan Watson, and maybe it's my curse, but Jordan Watson will qualify really well, and then it will go wrong for him in the race, and then he'll spend the whole race doing damage control and trying to work his way back to where he started. He is a very quick driver, and he's one of the more exciting overtakers out there. He will not hesitate to put a move on, so he is one to watch. But if I suppose if a driver is less than cooperative, it can end in tears. But you cannot blame Jordan Watson of being a dull driver to watch. Some play it safe. Jordan, say, a very exciting driver to watch as he chases Hearn at the moment in the gold 911. And I like that Watson chooses the Ferrari because it's Dan, why don't as he goes off there, why don't people choose the Ferrari so much, Dan?
It can be very Italian, even more Italian than the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I don't think we have any Lamborghinis, do we, this season?
No.
No, why is that?
Not a very fast car at the moment.
But it has the same engine as the Audi R8 that's behind him.
Bop. That's all I can say.
Bop. Bop it.
Squeeze it. Twist it.
I can't think of more. They did release another toy that flick it.
Whack it.
Oh, damn. Did you have one of those as a kid?
I did not. I just remember the TV adverts for them.
My friend had one, and he brought it with him on a school trip to a museum. So when we were having lunch or something, we were trying that. I could never get very far in it. Jonathan Earl still being held up by Jonathan Earl. Sorry, Jonathan Seville being held up by Jonathan Earl. We've got two Jonathans. That doesn't help. But yeah, that's just enabling Christopher Larson to pull out a gap. Last lap, 2 laps ago, it was just under 2 seconds. Now it's 3.5 seconds. So he's building that cushion as we've seen a few drivers getting dicey through Island Bend. Adam Gardner, I was going to say Mav. Adam Gardner trying to fend off Revzik. Revzik, he's dropped to 17th place. Now, when did that happen? Did that happen in the opening lap?
Must have done.
It must have done. Revzik's probably grateful that we didn't catch that, but I mean, it's never a good look to see yourself. Well, it depends if he made a mistake or got bopped off, doesn't it? If somebody's bopped him off the track, then yeah, he wouldn't mind us seeing the evidence for it. But of course, the drivers can submit clips after the race to the stewards, and I don't think whilst they can affect the results too much, there will be penalty points applied. There can be qualification bans for the next race, and so forth. As we're watching Derek Stack, one of the few Americans on our British GT3 series, he's in 22nd at the moment, chasing after Van Oulton and Petr Jelinek. Petr Jelinek's just made up a place there, and I saw a blue flag out. There's a blue flag out, and it's not that. I think it is that McLaren. That's not Zach Finney's McLaren. So I think that McLaren is out of place. Is that... No, that can't be Oulton, because Oulton is running with Dendy. Is there another McLaren further down, Dan? It must be Lowen. That must be Lowen's McLaren. That is Toby Lowen. He is Lowen down the order. He's in 41st. But he has... Crafty, he has made his mandatory pit stop already. If we can scroll down, there was a couple drivers who have actually already taken their mandatory pit stops. And it's a really wise idea to do that, because whilst the field is bunched up, they're likely to be occupying one half of the track. So if you can take a pit stop, you will come out into clear air. But obviously, Lowen is not in clear air at the moment, as Ralph Vest is... does he have a problem? He's down in last place at the moment. Is he the driver we lost when we were down to 42 drivers.
I believe so.
Oh no, and Ralph's lost it. He's lost it through Island Bend. He's kept it out the wall. Is he running a default setup that he doesn't like in his panic to get back on the track, maybe? Lowen's seeing more blue flags. So, yeah, his gamble was to take an early pit stop to come out into clear air, but that's not worked. Here's Dixon Hurst in the Golf livery Lexus. I don't think I've ever seen a Lexus with a Golf livery, but first for everything, he's running in 30th. He has not pitted like the majority of the field.
I can give you some more pit info.
Yeah, we'd love some pit info.
So Chris Martin has taken his drive-through, which is why he's even further down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ryan Davis has pitted, but not changed tyres, so it hasn't counted.
Oh no!
And so has Andrew Hearn.
Oh no! So the drivers, they've not set up their pit stop menu properly, or they have not checked the rules properly for today's race. But it is a mandatory pit stop, so this is going to be, and this isn't 2 30-minute races where, you know, you can take a mulligan and yeah, it's all right. We'll get him in race 2. He's going to have to claw his way back through the field after taking a second pit stop. So that's absolutely disastrous. And Jonathan Seville has cleared Jonathan L. That looks like it was recent. Can we get a replay, Dan? Because the driver ladder had only just now updated. As Martin Thorpe takes to the escape road, taking all the polystyrene in his grill. And he's trying to fend off Zach Finney there. No chance of a replay, Dan?
Unfortunately not. We've just missed it.
But yeah, Jonathan Seville is now in second place, and he's going to have to catch up that gap to Chris Larson. Here's Javier Marquez. He's in 19th, just behind Adam Gardner in the Remnant Racing, as Jordan Watson heads into the pit lane to make his mandatory pit stop. Hopefully he will take tyres. A lot of drivers actually do listen to the stream whilst they're racing. I don't know if Jordan is one, but I don't know if it's unfair to, you know, it gives them an advantage, but if a driver doesn't want to listen to the stream, then that's their own choice, and that's their own choice to miss out on that information, I suppose. Some drivers like it because they can hear us talking about them, and they're smug, and they have huge egos, and they love hearing about themselves being talked about in a positive light. But some drivers use it as a sort of tactical thing, and they can hear about where other drivers are. For example, Mav Gardner is in 13th place, for anyone who is wondering. For his, I don't think MSL, for his teammate, I'm not sure who his teammate is at MSL Racing, but his teammate would like to know he is in 13th at the moment. He's just behind Sigurd Revsik, who is working his way back through the field as Mav Gardner just takes to the grass, made a mistake, and he doesn't gain an advantage, but will he have a off-track warning for that, Dan?
More than likely. It doesn't look like he slowed down a lot.
No, he didn't make advantage, but he wasn't disadvantaged by it either. As Adtegren is in 25th, just trying to clear Alex Parkin as they go side by side up towards Druids, and he's not able to get the job done yet. So this is Silver versus Am. And now we've got Am versus... Is this Am versus Silver? Am versus Pro. As we've got Dave Zalecki right behind Martin Thorpe. So this is a really fantastic performance from Dave Zalecki. You are right to be impressed with him, Dan. As Mav Gardner getting very close to the back of Adam Gardner. Remnant Racing versus MCL Racing. The Gardners, no relation to each other. I'm quite sure. That's correct, isn't it, Dan? They're not related.
I'm pretty sure you're correct.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct there, but yeah, they are nose to tail at the moment in the Aston Martin. There's a bit of a gaggle, a bit of a train forming behind them though, led by Javier Marquez. And then you've got Zach Finney, the silver, in there. And Dave Zalecki at the back there, you can see in the AM glass. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there as I'm watching this train of cars. So how are our leading trio getting on? Is Seville closing that gap to Christopher Larson. So the gap from Seville to Larson is 6.5 seconds. And Seville's only pulled out a second from Jonathan L, so I don't think he's catching Jonathan L quickly enough. Alex Shahabi is starting to bear down on Jonathan L now, and these drivers will start having to think about when they'll be planning their pit stops. We're 15 minutes into the race. Most drivers sort of try and go halfway. Ben Brown's worked his way up to 22nd. Will Dendy's worked his way up to 23rd, but I have a feeling that could just be because a couple drivers now, like Jordan Watson, have taken their mandatory pit stops. Here's Ollie Knowles, oNiD, racing stronger. He's just behind Lathoff. They are running 31st and 32nd. And how did you know that was going to happen, Dan? It was like you tuned into Ollie knowing that he was going to take a pit stop. So, Ollie, remember to take tyres. Here's Ben Brown. He's still chasing Derek Stack. They come out of the hairpin. Hilker chasing Matt Wilmot. Hilker, of course, has the advantage of being a steering wheel driver, whereas Matt is a joypad controller. Usually, I've noticed when I've raced with Matt, the sort of thumb fatigue sets in around the 45-minute mark. Then I notice it becomes a bit harder for him to make those sort of fine movements on the analog sticks. But at the moment, he's doing fantastically well. He's in 27th at the moment, 4th overall in the AM class. And Hilker is silver, so it won't hurt Matt too much if he gets past. But Matt is chasing Marcel Seema, so he won't want anyone between him and Seema. Back with your, sorry, I thought we were going to say leader. Quinton Vingarden, we haven't checked on in him recently, but he is running in 13th, second in silver class at the moment, very comfortable, and chasing Adam Gardner, who is going on the defensive. He doesn't want to have a silver driver overtaking him and getting between him and Sigurd Revsik. Although Sigurd absolutely rocketing up the road, making up ground very quickly. He's going to be on the back of Matt High very, very soon. Oh, wide line there from Van Vingerden, and it's a bit brown trouser moment when you go out wide there, because you know if you just touch that grass with half a tyre's width, it's just going to drag you out, like, it's just going to grab you and pull you in, and there's no escape. And then you've got to try and thread the needle, and you have to decide if you're going to thread the needle quite early on, don't you, Dan? Because you can't do it last second; it won't work.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to go for the gap early.
Oh, and there was a bit of door banging just behind them, and that looked like Mav Gardner. That's the second time he's gone off at that corner. A few of these drivers are going to have to be careful. They're going to start getting track cut warnings. They could get penalties. Javier is defending from Zach Finney, and it looks like that's a black Aston Martin. No, it's a black Audi A4. That is Van Oosenen. I thought it was a black Aston Martin. No, it's Van Oosenen behind Finney, who's behind Oosenen, who's behind Patty Jelinek. As it looks like Marquez got a bit slow out there. I thought it was really holding Zach Finney up, and Zach Finney's coming under pressure now from Van Oosenen. Van Oosenen looking, but a bit, maybe a bit careful. Didn't want to risk contact. Very sensible, and there is 42 minutes left. So it's good driving, good respectful driving from the pair of them. But it looks like Van Oosenen can go quicker and wants to get that place taken. Oh, and we've got Petty Jelinek coming under attack now from Dave Zalecki, was that? Looks like Petty Jelinek's just holding on there. So a few seconds further back from this group, we've got Derek Stack, Ben Brown, and then a few more seconds back, Will Dendy, who is still in 23rd place. And yeah, Will, don't show this race to any potential sponsors, okay? We'll show them the ones where you're winning. So we've returned to the front half of the grid. Alex Shahabi, he's gotten even closer now to Jonathan L, and he's bearing down that big BMW. I think that big BMW meme came back, didn't it, through the Daytona 24?
It did, yeah. There was a picture of one of these M4 GT3s next to the Porsche 963, and someone had photoshopped the BMW to be about 300% bigger than it actually is.
The big Beamer. See, I feel sad now that I did my license test in the M4 model before this. Because I did my license test, and about 2 months later, they're like, "Oh, we've replaced all of our BMW M4s for the new model M4." I was like, "Oh, I would have quite liked to try the new one." But they're pretty similar, I think. They just
Different
they just
face.
changed the grille. Yeah, they just gave it sort of big nostrils. Marcus Hagel in 8th place. He's chasing Hearn still in the gold 911. So that's the battle for 7th place. Miles Dixon is in 6th. Dan Watts is in 5th. Alex Harvey's in 4th. Jonathan Ells in 3rd. Jonathan Seville's in 2nd. And Chris Larson, after 12 laps, is still leading with a 7-second gap. As Cammy's starting to develop hiccups. Not a good time for it. Sergei Revzik now. There it works. Has caught now this group of Henry Handy and Matt High. How quickly is he going to be able to clear them? Sergei, astonishingly quick racing driver. He is currently 3rd in the championship after his 3rd place finish last week. He's got 15 points. And if he wants to keep his title hopes alive, he ideally needs to finish in the top 10. Because Jonathan Seville and Chris Larson are very consistent drivers, unless and they're going to jump into the pits as well. Not a bad time for it. This is 20 minutes into the race. So 1/3 distance. Some drivers play it safe and just do half and half, but we're seeing now maybe some more tactical choices coming in of trying to find some clear air. And it looks like Shahabi's even closer now to Jonathan Earl. But Jonathan Earl is putting up a great defence. The best defence is a good offence, because he's not driving defensively, he's just driving very attacking, very fast. As we've seen the blue flags out again. Not sure who that was for. Don't think it's not for these three, because this is Van Veengarderen, Gardner and Thorpe as they round the hairpin. Through the chicane, you see Van Veengarderen taking a bit more curb, bouncing a bit higher. The V8 Vantage can take quite a lot of curb. It is a comfortable car to drive. It'll be the McLaren drivers who will be avoiding the curbs. This is the 3rd time now Mav has outbraked himself at the very same as Hislop's chicane. Dan, is Hislop's particularly tricky?
It can be, and sometimes it is better to cut there, because if you understeer too much, you're just going to hit that tyre barrier, and that's not going to end well.
So he does seem to be struggling with that corner more than most. I don't think we've spotted other people missing it. As Marcus Hagel taking his mandatory pit stop from 8th position. Just trying to spot who that is. Heading out the pits. That was another Audi by the looks of it. And Will Dendy's up into 20th place. But I have a feeling that could just be because some of pit stops. I'm just trying to look at cars around him, because he hasn't got past Ben Brown. As he's gonna, I think this is a lapped car anyway he's passing. Yeah, the blue flags are out. That is one of the trailing Audis. That's not SEMA or Chris Martin. I'm not sure who that is, but... So, Hagel's got his pit stop, and it looks like he's coming out in 20th or 21st, 22nd place, maybe. Oh, Will, don't go too wide out there at Island Bend. Here is Marcus Hagel. He's down in 26th, but... Oh, we got an off! Was that Matt Wilmot? No, I don't think that was Matt Wilmot. That looked like a similar colour BMW. Who was that, Dan? Oh, it's Ryan Davies! He absolutely flew off there, didn't he?
Yeah, it looked like he'd hit a patch of oil.
Now, ACC is realistic, but I don't think cars can drop oil leaks, can they?
I don't think so. Maybe he'd got a puncture then.
I suppose that is possible. Does that happen often in Assetto Corsa Competizione?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced it?
I've had a flat tyre. It will give you like a warning, low tyre pressures. stay away from curbs, and then if you keep hitting the curbs with low tyre pressure, you can get a puncture.
Does the game actually visually model it? So if you look at the outside of the car, it's visibly flat, or is it just a physics effect?
I don't know, because I've only ever had it whilst I've been driving, and no one's ever said to me, "You've been following my car, I've got a flat tyre," when I've been broadcasting.
You've not looked on a replay?
No.
If anybody can check when they've got a puncture and look on a replay and let us know if ACC does model the flat tyre, be greatly appreciative. As Hilke van der Veen is in 22nd place at the moment. Will Dendy's now up into 19th. Ben Brown's up into 17th. But Jonathan Seville has taken his mandatory pit stop. He is down in 18th place. Here he is. He's back out on track in his Porsche. New boots on the Porsche. And I think he is the leader of those who have pitted. Yeah, he definitely is the leader of the pitted lot. Marcus Hagel second, and Sigurd Revsik is 27th. So we're just coming up 25 minutes into this race. Half an hour left of the pit window. These two are still fighting with each other. This is Marquez and Finney fighting for 12th place, but I think this is realistically a battle for about 17th at the moment, given everybody's a little bit out of order with pit stops. I love how ACC models these guys on the right, but nobody in the garages or on the pits.
Doesn't use a lot of system resources. If you look at all the guys on the right, they're basically cut and paste clones of each other.
They are, and they all just keep looking up as well. Huh? What? Who? What? Where? Oh, Zach Finning gets a little happy slide out there, just watching the cars in the background. He's chasing hard and he's pushing very hard. Mav Gardner, Javier Marquez, and then Zach Finney nose to tail with each other. Here's Jonathan Earl, yet to pit. He's now in 4th place. He's been taken by Miles Dixon at some point. Miles Dixon's just about a second up the road. So has Jonathan Earl had an off? It says Miles Dixon's 7/10. Oh no, that's the gap. Oh, here we go, 6 seconds. So I think Jonathan Earl's had an off.
I think he has.
I think he has, you know.
Yeah, I did notice he dropped 2 positions. Because he should be second.
26 of you watching this evening, thank you very much for joining us for this round 2 at Oulton Park, part of the oNiD British GT3 Championship. So it's the split 1, split 2 is the Challenger, and split 3 is the Trophy. I Am Attack says, why does Earl not have the zebra livery on stream?
Because he hasn't uploaded it properly.
Yeah, he had it last week, though.
I hit the sync button on my computer before the race.
It's your fault. You hit the sync button.
It's sunk into the ground.
That's it. They've all sunk. As Will Dendy coming under pressure now from Alex Shahabi, and Alex Shahabi has pitted. So how hard is Will going to defend this? Because this isn't really full position. He's just letting Alex Shahabi go. A wise move. They're not fighting for a position with each other.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to do it in a way that would lose him the least amount of time.
Yeah, he's got a wise head on his shoulders, and that is why he's had so much success in the GT Cup series. Of course, racing for Orange Racing. He raced in the McLaren. Was it the 520, 570? Dan, help me.
570S?
you sound as sure as I am. In GT4 class, but yeah, he has taken to the 720 in the GT3 class. But that's what I mean. I'm used to seeing Will up fighting for the lead, really. Especially last time I saw him racing at Circuit of the America. Here's Jonathan Seville in 12th. He's got Derek Stack and Ben Brown ahead of him. Not helping him out at all, but of course they are racing with him. Ben Brown gets a wheel on the grass, so he might as well just let that one go. Jonathan Seville just runs round the outside and takes that 11th spot from Ben, but they are not racing each other. This is not Ben's race to have against Jonathan Seville. As Miles Dixon assumes the lead as Chris Larson has just gone in to get his pit stop done. Jonathan Earl is in the pits, and Henry Handy is in the pits, which has promoted Adam Gardner up into provisional second place. So Adam must be enjoying that, as Jonathan Seville now going side by side with Derek Stack, gets the inside line into Cascades and takes that 8th position from him. So it's all getting a bit bunched up at the front now, because some of the leaders are pitting and coming out into sort of midfield top 10 traffic. And we just got a replay here of Zach Finney coming down into the Cascades. I think there's Mav Gardner ahead of him still.
Yeah, he makes a move somewhere.
So Mav Gardner goes left and goes very defensive. They're coming up to Island Bend. The long left-hander. Zach Finney's going to try around the outside. He does get him around the outside. Great move there from Zach Finney. But, Mav Gardner comes back at him a little bit later on the brakes. But, great move there from Zach Finney. Gets that job done. It had been a long time coming. Jonathan Earl in 17th place. He's got Chris Martin ahead of him in the Audi. Miles Dixon now taking his mandatory pit stop, making sure everyone takes tyres. And Earl getting very close to the back of Chris Martin. Is Chris Martin going to fight this one? Lots of traffic coming out of the pits now ahead of Adam Gardner, who, I guess that graphic is correct. I guess Adam Gardner has assumed the lead.
Correct.
As Jonathan Earl is still behind Chris Martin. And Chris Martin isn't driving defensively, but overtaking at Oulton Park isn't the easiest thing to do, is it, Dan?
It really isn't. It's such a narrow, tight, twisty track. Although it looks like he's forced his way up the inside there.
He's forcing the issue, yeah. Chris, he can go defensive. He just took his normal line, but if you're only a little bit faster than the car ahead, it's almost impossible to get past. You have to be a lot faster to make that move, because it's a very tight track, and if they close the door on you, it can quickly go sour. And Alex Shahabi now, he's trying to get past Derek Stack, he wants to reclaim that 7th place. Derek does still need to take his pit stop, as Alex takes a handful of curb there. You watch the BMW bouncing over the curbs. He's going to get a good run, though. I don't think Derek Stack's going to fight this. No, Derek's just keeping left and letting Alex Shahabi make that move, and apart from taking a little bit of grass, it was a very nice textbook manoeuvre from him. It's good. Rebsick is in 17th place, but he's right behind Hilke van der Veen, who does needs a pit still. He's taking the outside line. Hilke's going to defend this one then. As they go side by side, he's got the outside line. He might feel like he's owed a little bit more space than that, but he's crowded out. And was that Mav Gardner again? No, it wasn't. I'm just joking. That wasn't Javier Marquez. That was what was it, Javier Marquez? Chris Larson now. He's got Martin Thorpe behind him, who assumed that 2nd place. But Chris Larson wants that quickly back, and he's going to make quick work of it. Yeah, Martin doesn't put up any fight. It's not his fight to have, and he's just going to hope he can keep on the back of Chris Larson and sort of maybe pick up a thing or two. As Sigurd is still trying to get past Hilke van der Veen. Hilke still not taking his pit stop. There's 22 minutes left on the pit window, and they're both in BMWs. And yeah, this is Sigurd's not just able to throw it up the inside, but he got a faster exit, but he's going to be on the outside now into Cascades. This is going to be very tough. Dan, what's going to happen?
I think it's going to be a no-go, and he's going to drop back and have a look at another corner.
I think you're right there. I thought that was going to go a bit more excitingly than it did. Sigurd is a mature driver. He's very close to the back of Hilke, though, and again, Hilke is defending. So this is going to be frustrating Sigurd Redzik to no end, because it's not helping Hilke's race by defending this, because he needs to pit in anyway. And with this defensive driving, Hilke's just going to be losing time to Chris Martin ahead, who is a driver he is fighting for position with. So Hilke goes defensive again. Sigurd's going to have to go around the long way. He didn't get much space given to... Yeah, he's learned this time that he's not going to be given much space. Hilke's got it wrong a little bit. He's going to push him wide, though. And Sigurd's probably going to get a better run up the hill now. But it just depends how aggressively Hilke's going to defend this. They come up 2 Druids. Yeah, Hilke's got a defensive and tight. He's going to take a much tighter line. Sigurd's just going to try and get the old switcheroo. It looks like he's going to get it, but he can't make up the ground quick enough before Hilker starts defending again. And he's going to throw it up the inside now into the final corner, but one. And he's got the job done. He will be so frustrated with Hilker. It looks like Hilker might be opting to pit. No, Hilker's staying out. But no doubt Sigurd will be so frustrated. He would have lost several seconds of time there just having such an unnecessary fight. As a cameraman, that's not Dan doing that, by the way. Cameraman getting distracted by other drivers going past Ben as he makes his mandatory pit stop of the race. 25 minutes left to go here at Oulton Park. Here's Van Oosenen in the jet black Audi. He's behind Mav Gardner. Most drivers now seeming to have taken their pit stop as we've got a driver off there. Dan, I can't think who that is, but it's the NASCAR inspired livery. It's Andrew Hearn trying to very carefully rejoin. For a minute there, I thought he was just going to park it as Will Dendy comes through to lap him. So Will Dendy's back down in 28th, so everything's sort of organised itself after everybody's pit stops. Only Hilker and Chris Martin yet to pit. So now Sigurd Revsic's unlucky for, well, it was a bit unlucky for Sigurd that he had to fight his way past Hilker, but now he's thinking, I've got another driver who hasn't pitted ahead of me. And he's going to be hoping that Chris Martin doesn't defend for his life for that 10th spot that he's going to lose in the pits. Matt High getting very close to the back of back of Hilker. And Matt High much more aggressive with it. A bit of door banging there. Yeah, he's much more aggressive with this. He's seen. And Hilker now taking his pit stop. 24 minutes ago, Hilker finally takes his mandatory pit stop. So it's only Derek Stack and Chris Martin left to pit. Marcus Hagel is in 8th position in the highest running. I think there's only 2 Audis on the grid, maybe 3 Audis on the grid tonight. He's the highest running of them in 8th. Chris Larson still holds the fastest lap of the race with 22 laps completed. 18 minutes left of the pit window. It is 23 degrees here. And the weather just says it's going to be sunny as Henry Handy is going to start duking it out with Matt High for 12th. Dan, feel free to say something.
Audi with a chance of meatballs?
Dan, don't feel free to say something in future. I gave you a chance and you blew it. You blew your commentating chance. You said cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Why did you? Why did that come
because the weather is cloudy.
It's such an obscure film. I've never seen it. Have you?
I've seen it once.
Okay, it wasn't amazing then that you had to go and return to see it.
No.
Is there a film that you've been to the cinema more than once to see?
I don't think so.
That's a good. Makes easier work of Chris Martin than Hilker. Chris was not defending that as Chris jumps into the pit lane. The only there's a couple of films I've been to the cinema more than once to see. Toy Story was one. My dad was my parents actually were both breathtakingly sort of impressed with Toy Story. Sort of how it looked at the time in '96 that we went to see that one twice. And the cinema wasn't even in our hometown. We had to drive to the next town to go see that. So that's how worth that it was. I saw Zootropolis twice. I went to see that with different friends because I went with some friends and then I had other friends who hadn't seen it and I was like, yeah, I don't mind seeing it again. That's a really good film. Let us know in the chat if well, we're watching racing. What's the best racing film, Dan, that you've watched?
You ain't first, you're last.
Oh, really? You're going to choose that?
It's
Talladega
brilliant.
Nights. See, I thought you were going to say Rush. That Rush is my favourite, hands down.
Rush is, dare I say, too factually accurate. I like Talladega Nights because it's made up.
Are you saying Talladega?
I just tripped up over my words.
You're adding another syllable in there. I think it's Talladega, isn't it? Talladega.
Yeah.
Yeah. As Jonathan L looking up the inside of Marcus Hagel, not able to make the move. Jonathan Hagel, yeah. Jonathan L wasn't behind Marcus Hagel, so Jonathan L has fallen down the order a bit. because he was fighting with Seville, Shahabi, and Miles Dixon. So yeah,
He had a
that
very
off he
slow
had was,
stop as well.
How much longer was it?
It was over 10 seconds longer than you should be stopped for.
So he might have been repairing damage from that off we didn't see. Is the only thing I can think of. Very unfortunate for Jonathan L. But and we've got Andrew Hearn off again. Andrew, you could have threaded that needle there. But he is rejoined. He is in 41st. Yeah, he just sat there. He could have rejoined. Actually, does he have a problem? Because
Possibly.
he was slow to rejoin last time. So has he got a technical problem that he's trying to... he could be sat there turning his steering wheel off and back on again. Although ACC really doesn't like if you do that, does it, Dan?
No, and if you do that, remember not to be pressing any pedals because it will reset the 0 point for that pedal.
Oh no, yeah, of course. If you're pressing accelerate, it will... So what does it do? If you're not on... If you've had your foot down on the accelerator and restarted it, it will think that is 0. But if you lift your foot off the pedal, it will think that's like, what, minus 100?
No, so it will just... Actually, anything you press on the pedal will register as 0.
Yeah, so if you've got your foot down, it will register that as 0 rather than 100%.
Yeah, same with the brake.
So if you lift off the accelerator, it must register that as either another 0. As Jonathan L leaps down the inside, I think Marcus Hagel gave him a bit too much space there. Marcus Hagel opened that door wide, not expecting Jonathan L to send it. But if there's any driver that's going to send it on this grid, it is Jonathan L. He traditionally does it on the opening lap, but I don't think he's against doing it further into the race, as he's just proved, and Marcus Hagel must be kicking himself for... I mean, he opened that very wide, and now he's after Hearn. And Derek Stack, I have a feeling, is at the front of this train.
I think he made a mistake, which is why he ran so wide. I think he broke himself behind Hearn and
I've checked
did it
this.
to avoid.
The past tense is braked. He outbraked himself.
Ah.
Yeah.
The more you know.
That's Jonathan L going on the attack again. He's going to go for Hearn into the chicane. Oh, he's pushed him wide a little bit, but he's been able to rejoin safely. And Jonathan L has not taken the position, so that's probably all's fair in love and war. They've both been able to get away with it, although I suppose Hearn might have an off-track warning for that, even though it wasn't himself. It wasn't his fault, but you can see and the excitement rising in my voice as Jonathan L is coming back at him. Jonathan L and Jordan Watson, two of the most exciting drivers on the track. Going on the attack again. He's got Marcus Hagel behind him, but he's not quite close enough to attack. I'm trying to see where Jordan Watson is. Jordan Watson, have we lost him? As Hal dives down the inside, and he's gone wrong! He's gone wrong for... Oh, I was going to say it's gone wrong for both of them, but Jonathan L's come off worse there. It looked like they were both going to go into a slide, but Hearn was able to hold it. Earl was not. Always excitement from Jonathan L. Where is Jordan Watson, Dan?
Must have disconnected.
I cursed him again, haven't I? This time he's not even been able to do a damage recovery drive. So we've lost Watson. Oh, and Zach Finney's flashing his lights. He's had an off. He's flashing his lights. Has he been knocked off the track by somebody? I think there's... is that Oulton in front of him? Yeah, he's a bit frustrated. Zach Finney was going very well. Here's Daniel Lindblom. He's just behind Adam Gardner now. Oh, he runs a bit wide. That's going to enable Martin Thorpe to close up to these two a little bit. 27 of you watching now. I think that's up slightly on the figure I gave last time. Thank you very much for joining us. There's if you've just joined us, just over a quarter of an hour left of this 1 hour race at Oulton Park. Round 2 of the oNiD GT3, the British GT3 Championship. Chris Larson is your race leader at the moment, as he did at the night race at Brands Hatch. It is starting to get dark here now. It's the sun's starting to... I said the sun's starting to go down. It's 10 to 1. But Chris does have his lights on, as he's coming up to lap traffic now. And did Javier... I thought Javier flashed his light, but he didn't. It was just a bump in the road. But he's behind Van Vingerden, as Derek Stack is the last of the runners to make his mandatory pit stop. He was running up, I think he was up in 4th place, but we can see how quickly he's going to fall down the order now. Dan, where do you predict Stack will come out?
He's hoping probably to come out just ahead of Ben Brown.
Cool, so you really think he'll fall down as far as 23rd?
That's where he was before.
Ah, well remembered. As Javier got very close to the back of Van Wingerden through Cascades, Stack is just coming out, and Dan, I think you were bang on the money. Will Dendy's gone past. There's Dendy.
Yeah, I don't think going so long has helped. Everyone else has been lapping a lot quicker with much newer tyres.
I think so. So, yeah, that is Derek Stack. 25th is not correct there because Will Dendy has gone past. Unless Will Dendy's up into 24th now, so he's up a few places from where he started. But I'll be honest, I expected Will to be flying up through the order. Did you, Dan?
I did expect him to make more progress.
Will, we expected better. We expected better from you, mate. As Hilke, as you remember, he was fiercely defending a move from Sigurd Revzik earlier. He is approached the back of Alex Parkin. They're in different classes. Alex Parkin is an AM driver. Hilke van der Veen is a silver driver. As joining Dave Zalecki. What's happened here? We had a bit of action with Dave Zalecki. He's lapping the Audi. At Zach Finney ahead in the McLaren.
Yeah, something happens and Ben Brown gets past.
Now, Ben Brown is just behind the Audi. Is that Oulton? Oh, and that's happened to me so many times. You just take that curb on the right as you'd think normally, and you just get a handful of oversteer, and he's tried to correct that, and it's sort of that's flicked him out left a bit, and I spun. When it happened to me, I spun, but it's not gone wrong for him so badly. As Chris Larson now coming to pass Will Dendy, a man not so used to being lapped. He is used to handling traffic, being in the GT Cup. GT Cup is a multi-class discipline where you have GT3s and GT4s but it's divided into... Oh no, Will Dendy's off the track! He's off at Island Bend. He's got to make sure he doesn't hit that barrier. He's going to try and thread the eye of the needle. He does. I think he just a lapse in concentration there as he was being lapped. Just as I was saying, he is used to being passed, but having to let people pass him because he's used to that multi-discipline race of GT Cup where you have GT3s and GT4s, but they're broken up into about 5 categories because you have like GTB and GTC and GTH. And it's a very strange system where they've got GT3 and GT4 cars of different eras. So not only do you have brand new sort of 2020 cars, but I think there's a Radical in there from 2012 or so that they have to take into account, and they'll have slightly different balance of performance, so they make different categories. And then you get into this situation where you have categories in GT Cup where there's only 3 cars competing in the class. So you're always guaranteed a medal, whatever colour, at the end of each race. I think the Radical was always taking home the gold because the only other 2 cars in its class were driven by gentleman drivers, whereas I think the Radical driver was a bit of a pro. So he was a bit uncontested. Talking of uncontested, Christopher Larson is still leading this race. As Hilke now being lapped. There's a familiar face. He's being lapped now by Sigurd Revzik. And this time, Sigurd is able to pass much more easily, but I think Sigurd will be grinning there, going, yeah, remember me? Now you have to move over. And Hilke does. He's technically not done anything wrong, of course. It was fully legal for him to defend, as little sense as it made at the time. But yeah, under blue flags, he had to let that go. As we're back with Javier Marquez chasing Daniel Lindblom for Fry Guys Motorsport. Just over 11 minutes of this race remaining. Anything can happen here. People can still make mistakes. We often do see it as we get into the last 10 minutes of a race. Just as the concentration... I was going to say concentration. What's concentration, Dan?
I'm not sure. Is it similar to 2012?
Did I say 2012?
Yeah.
I love how you kept quiet on that one. You just put that one in your pocket, like, yeah, I'm going to remind that one to Cammy later.
I'll save that one for later.
Even nobody's paying attention. Like, nobody said in the chat, like, what? They've just zoned me out. They've probably got this on mute and they're just keeping an eye on where their friend or their teammate is. Oh, I don't blame you. No, Jonathan Earl is in 8th place. He's worked his way back. But Sigurd Revsek would have to be man of the race for me at the moment. With his comeback, he is in 9th. And he's not far behind these two. He will be on top of these two in a couple laps. Dan, do you have apart from Chris Larson, who is just, so far, faultless drive, do you have a driver of the race?
Driver of the race for me would still... It'd have to be Dave Zalecki, because he's still, even though he's made that small mistake, he kept it out the wall and he's still leading his class.
Yeah, he is. He's running 23rd at the moment. And here's that was the leader of Silver Class, Henry Handy, but Jonathan Earl right behind Hearn now. This is the battle for 7th and 8th. He tried to put a move on him earlier, you may remember, and they came to blows, and Hearn got away with it, as Ben Brown has picked up a drive-through penalty. Ben, if you're listening and you haven't noticed, you have got a drive-through penalty, my son. But Jonathan Earl is back with Hearn. Yeah, these two collided at turn 1 as John Earl sent it up the inside and made contact. Hearn was able to drive away, but Jonathan Earl was thrown into a bit of a spin and sort of had to put the anchors on to prevent a 360 or 180 or a 360 spin. He sort of went 90 degrees and was sort of awkward. Ben's immediately serving his drive-through penalty. 9 minutes of the race to go. Chris Larson still leading by almost 14 seconds. And in this category of racing, that is a mile and a half. So, Jonathan Earl, is he going to make a lunge, or is he going to try and play it more safely this time? He maybe underestimated Hearn last time, couldn't scare him. He couldn't do a Senna and throw it up the inside and expect them to be scared out the way. I am just suppressing hiccups. The excitement, it's just giving me hiccups here. Ryan Davies, here's USB disconnect sound. Well, oh no, so that's why you were parked up. So what happened, Ryan? Tell us. Like, do you know what it was that disconnected? Jonathan Earl doesn't send it up the inside this time. He's probably not quite close enough. There's still a few car lengths between them, but they are coming up to lap traffic, and he knows that will be his chance to pounce. If they can catch that lap traffic at the wrong point, or at the right point, Hearn's flashing his lights. He is absolutely aware that this could cost him his 7th place. That road is only wide enough for 2 cars. Jonathan Earl's a wheel on the grass, going to try and make it 3 wide. As Sigurd Revsek now is going to join this party. He can smell 7th position. He's come up so far after these opening lap. Well, whatever happened in the opening laps to him, we'll find out later. But he is having a tremendous race, and he's going to. Jonathan Earl's going to get the run now. Jonathan Earl's going to get the run. Hearn very slow out of the chicane there. This time, Earl's got the inside. Hearn's going to try and close that door, and there's contact. Hearn's been spun round, and he's going to feel so hard done by it that he will be livid, because he's going to think, how many times is Earl going to make contact with me? And Earl is not able to stick around for that one. He's off into the distance because he's being hounded all the way by Sigurd Revsek. 2nd in the championship at the moment. No, he is 3rd in the championship at the moment. I think he's our only Scandinavian driver in the series. I just want to check that in case I've insulted a... no, there's 2 Swedes in silver class, so my apologies to the Swedes. And I don't think we've got any Danes. And no drivers from Finland. But yeah, Sigurd is going to get very close to the back of Earl. These two of the most exciting drivers in pro class in this series. Earl, master of overtaking, but Sigurd he must know a thing or two about overtaking, because he has worked his way firmly up the field. Zach has a drive-through, but he's stopped. Dan, is he taking tyres?
No, maybe he's got some damage. Yeah, there's no reason why I should be stopped with a DT.
No, Zach, if you can hear us, you can just keep going. You can just drive on. Unless he's accidentally stopped and then, controls locked for a while.
Yeah, possibly didn't tell the heads-up display to take the penalty.
So, just under 6 minutes to go. Chris Larson's lead has extended to 14.5 seconds, yeah. Zach Finney still in the pits. He's just falling down the order. This is a gift for all the drivers that will be behind him, but something very wrong. I mean, he won't be last. Ryan Davies is 4 laps down and retired from this race, I think, with his ominous USB disconnect sound. He hasn't told us what it was. Maybe Ryan Davies has got going again, but he is 4 laps down. Here's Chris Larson, your leader. He's just lapped Oulton. And that looks like Mav Gardner and Ryan Davies, speak of the devil, that he's coming up to. Is that Ryan? No, it's not Ryan Davies, sorry. Is that Andrew Hearn? I'm slowly learning everyone's names
because it's
and
the
liveries.
The NASCAR livery.
Yeah, Hearn has just let Mav Gardner lap him. But this must be at least the second time then that Chris Larson's going to lap him. Yeah, Zach Finney must. He can't have a technical issue because those strike at any time. You usually can't make it back to the pits if, for example, your steering wheel stopped working. But Jonathan Els, he handled the pressure for quite a while from Jonathan Seville earlier. And he's handling it so far quite well from Sigurd Brevsik. And Hearn is down in 10th that he was fighting with. Can't quite see. I think Hearn's just rounding Folston's chicane now. He's just out of shot. But do you think that'll be one for the stewards after the race, Dan, between Earl and Hearn?
My personal opinion is Earl has earned the right to some space, so you probably shouldn't turn in like that. I'd err on the side of maybe a racing incident.
Yes, and Earl's looking. He needs to get past the back marker there of the name escapes me. It's not exactly the name escapes me of the Audi driver.
Seema?
It's not Marcel Seema. Slowly getting around to everybody's names. As long as they keep their lists the same throughout the series and they keep uploading their liveries and they all sync properly, then that will help me remember. But it's a good Revsik still chasing. Martin Thorpe is chasing Henry Handy, and Van Wingerden just a bit further back down the road. He's not going to be able to make an impression, and he might be having to settle for second place in silver. Henry Handy might, if he starts coming under the pressure from Martin Thorpe, it might be wise just to let Martin Thorpe go rather than risk Martin diving up the inside, making contact and costing Henry Handy the win in class. 3 minutes to go. Sigurd Revsik still right behind Jonathan Els. Maybe just try to pressure him into a mistake. This is Sigurd Revsik. Probably, he's had a tough time working his way up the field, but this is probably the toughest, most skilled driver he's come up against in this race to overtake, because it has not happened yet. They are both coming up to a McLaren. I'm not sure who that is. We've seen them before, but we're back with Martin Thorpe, just closing in on Henry Handy. Big puff of dirt there. Not using the curb on the right. You absolutely lose it if you take too much curb there as they work their way up Clay Hill towards Water Tower. Through Druids, Martin Thorpe's going to look up the inside. Ooh. Now, did Henry let him go there, or was that a mistake? And then just let him go. If I jump back on the racing line, we'll make contact. I'll lose my silver win. Just let him go. It doesn't hurt. As Marquez goes up the inside of Van Wingerden, and this could be another situation where it's just a case of let them go. It doesn't hurt my silver position. I think that is the case. Quinton. Oh, he seems to be coming back at him, though. He's closing up. He's going to make a move. Marquez is thinking to get defensive, but Van Wingerden, you're second in class. Do not throw it away with an unnecessary battle or unnecessary conflict now. Oh, he's moving around. You can't take, even though the sensible mind says calm it down. Just guarantee your position. As Vingerden's going to try up the inside. He had the space there. A little rough, a little touring car move, but I really don't want these two to come to blows because that will cost Van Vingerden his second in class. As we're just counting down to a minute to go, I'm sure Dan can let us know when Larson starts his final lap. Dan's good like that.
I think he might be on the final lap. I will just do the maths.
Dan's going to do quick maths as we stick with these two, Javier Marquez. And Van Vingerden's made a mistake, and Marquez has just driven on by. So that was a fun battle while it lasted, but probably wise for these two not to keep thinking. Not to keep fighting with each other, rather. As I keep thinking. As Henry Handy is closing up on Martin Thorpe, but he's got... Who's that behind him? I'm driving... Is that a lapped car behind him? But anyway... Yeah, Chris Larson's just quickly trying to clear the last of the back markers.
He could slow down and finish the race now.
He could. Is he going to start another lap? Is he going to start?
No, he slowed down just in time.
He slowed down just in time. I'm not even sure the man with the checkered flag had time to come out. But it is Chris Larson who takes win number 2 here at Oulton Park. Jonathan Seville comes across the line to take another second place. Sorry, beg your pardon. Chris Larson takes his first win of the season. Seville comes across the line for second place. So they have 1 win each and 1 second place each. And Alex Jahabi gets his first podium of the season. Miles Dixon finishes 4th and is quickly back in the pits. And Dan Watts finishes in 5th place. Marcus Hagel, yet to finish, is the first of the cars running to been lapped. I think Dan Watts was the last of the runners to avoid being lapped. So that means Chris Larson lapped the entire field up to 6th place, Dan.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable drive.
That's incredible. So Marcus Hagel finishes in 6th place. Jonathan Earl 7th and holds off Sigurd Revzik in the end, who finishes 8th. Matt High in 9th. Hearn is 10th. Adam Gardner is 11th. Martin Thorpe 12th. Henry Handy 13th. Javier Marquez 14th. Van Vingerden 2nd. That is Henry Handy taking the win for silver class. Van Vingerden 2nd in silver. And Daniel Lindblom 3rd in silver class. Dave Zalecki takes the win in AM class, with Marcel Seema 2nd in class in 26th. And Alex Parkin rounds off the AM podium in 27th place. Has Will Dendy not crossed the line yet? It's not marking him with a checkered flag. He is 33rd. So he's fallen down a bit from Ben Brown. He was right behind Ben Brown. What's happened to Will? Where is Will? He can't be out on track still, surely.
I can't find him. Maybe he's had an issue.
I'm gonna keep calling you Shirley. Well, wherever Will is, that is the race completed. Your race winner taking his first victory of the season, Chris Larson. Sorry, I said he took 2 wins out of 2 because I'm pretty sure he won the Transatlantic Cup race. Jonathan Seville, or was that Jonathan Seville? The pair of them just keep winning. So that is 1 win apiece for them and 1 second place apiece for them, which will put them equal on standings in the championship. Alex Shahabi takes his first podium of the season. There was plenty of excitement in that race, wasn't there, Dan?
There was plenty of action throughout the race. Great fun to watch.
Ryan Davies has just come back to us and said total wheelbase and pedal blip off. Came back with no input and then no force feedback. Yeah, that is we've seen that happening before, and it is very difficult to drive without any force feedback. You're absolutely blind. I can't believe we used to do it with steering wheel sort of in the early 2000s. It feels weird that we had steering wheel toys for PC and console that had no force feedback, doesn't it, Dan?
It does. I've got one sat behind me that I found in the basement.
Is that the old? Is it an old Fanatec?
No, it is. Give me 1 second. Logitech Wingman Formula GP.
Oh, I've got to Google that. Run that past me again. Logitech
Wingman Formula GP.
I've just got to look this wheel up. Does it have like red rubber bits on the side?
Yellow.
Oh, it's the yellow one. It's quite a smart looking wheel. And I think they did a force feedback version because there is a... Yeah, so there is the Formula Force GP.
So this one, you can feel it's got like rubber bands in it for self-centering.
That's what they're calling force feedback, maybe.
Possibly.
I've got a feeling the yellow one was the non-force feedback and the red one was the force feedback version. There was probably a price difference. Well, that rounds up our evening at Oulton Park, round 2 of the oNiD British GT3 Championship 2023, which is invite only, hence you're getting only the finest drivers. Next week, we will be at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for round 3 on Sunday, the 5th of February. Same time, the race will qualifying gets underway just before 8 p.m. British time. It'll be 9 p.m. European time. So it just leaves it from me to say I've been Cammy Sturch. He's been Dan Hyde. Dan, say goodnight to everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody, and we hope to see you next week.